Council of ALBA-TCP to start the debate. And we yield the floor to Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodríguez Parrilla. Welcome, Bruno. Go ahead, please. Thank you very much. Dear friend Ivan Hill, Foreign Minister of Venezuela, dear foreign ministers and chiefs of delegation, Honorable Jorge Arreaza, Executive Secretary, I bring a friendly salute from Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel to the Venezuelan President, to the Venezuelan people, and to all the peoples and governments of the ALBA bloc and its certainty in victory. This meeting happens at a crucial time when the United States is trying to force an international system that may threat peace, stability, and security. Based on the supposed defense of nationalism, which is imperialist and racist, the U.S. is resorting to economic punitive measures which will have a negative impact in our peoples. The U.S. government is applying discriminatory policies which undermine the dignity and human rights of our nationals, of our citizens, and they are intimidating, using unilateral coercive measures against our countries which violate international law. In this design, natural resources, infrastructure, critical infrastructure, and legitimate international relations that we have developed with other countries are being threatened. And whoever does not abide to this plan by the empire will be targeted with persecution, extraterritorial persecution. The U.S. is violently trying to impose a new world order. On one side, the people who agree with them, who give them economic benefits and even territories, and on the other side, those who will be coerced or targeted for denying to abide by the United States will. This design is already hurting the sovereignty and independence of the states. It violates the principle of non-interference in domestic issues, and it is an impediment for each country to enjoy its full rights. We cannot ignore these new threats, the interference of a foreign country, unconventional means of warfare, or a communicative media war. At times like these, we think of the words of our apostle, Jose Marti. Our enemy has a plan, that of pitting us against each other, dividing us, drowning us. That's why we need another plan, that of coming together as high as we can, stronger as we can, a plan against a plan. Latin America and the Caribbean needs to continue to be a zone of peace, as CELAC proclaimed on its second summit held in Havana in January 2014. The Panama Canal belongs exclusively to the Panamanian people. We are committed, and it is our duty, to keep a system based on respectful, friendly, and cooperation relations, free of any threats or aggressions. We need peace, stability, so that we may no longer resort to the use of force. We need to work for the 9th Select Summit, which will be held next April in Honduras. It should be, it would hinge upon unity within diversity. A proposal made by Cuba's General Raul Castro. Cuba supports the preservation of CELAC as a mechanism to represent political dialogue and agreement among its 33 member states. We need to champion the views of this community to safeguard its historical heritage. The politically motivated use of deportations by the United States is a violation, a systematic violation of human rights of our citizens. We need to rally to prevent such deportations to be used as a weapon against our nations. The use of the naval base, which is usurpated by the United States in Cuba as a prison for migrants, is a brutal act, a threat to security for Cuba and the region. The kidnapping, the extraterritorial kidnapping without trials of migrants and the sending such migrants to a third country, especially Venezuelan migrants or from any other citizenship, it is a cruel, inhumane treatment. The main reason why Cubans migrate is the economic blockade, which is made worse by the fact that Cuba is included in the list of terrorist-sponsored countries, and it has an impact in the families. We have asked the U.S. government, we have suggested the U.S. government that we will continue to honor the 3 bilateral migration agreements, which up to this moment have been complied by, which have been ratified by the United States because those agreements benefit the interest of both countries. That government has a great responsibility on the fact that Cubans in Cuba, residing in Cuba, in the United States, have migrated in large numbers due to the politicization that has been made of the issue. The U.S. government has encouraged Cubans to has encouraged that immigration by allowing Cuban nationals to claim reasonable fear. And as long as they are able to regularize their situation, migratory status in the United States, as soon as they have that, they come back to their mother country. They are the only ones in the world who do the same, who do that. And now they are victims of the very people who welcome them and are being threatened. The anti-Cuban politicians, members of the U.S. Congress, and the State Secretary, with very few exceptions, none of them were born in Cuba. None of them have been to Cuba. But they have been against Cuba, and they have profited from being aggressive to Cuba. The Secretary of State today, with his special envoy, is a shame for Latin America and is the main promoter of the persecution and forced massive deportations of Cubans residing, whether they are residents or temporary residents. Many of those who enter legally in that country, who work, pay taxes there, who have acquired property, and they are being exploited while they wait for the application of the Cuban Adjustment Act. This is the consequence of their acts, because in order to hurt Cuba, they don't care to hurt these people and to hurt the family of these people. So what are they doing now, these hypocritical, cynical people? They do not even represent the interests of the people who voted for them. So stop lying to split up families. Even Robert Menendez, former senator, has said that the Secretary of State, the current Secretary of State, should join him in prison on his 11-year sentence for similar corruption acts. So Cuba reinstates its commitment to an orderly migration and its persecution of migratory crime like human trafficking. We also reiterate to the U.S. government our willingness to dialogue, to continue dialoguing on migratory issues and how to apply the law to prevent such crimes and terrorism and drug trafficking. We thank the support by many members of this community when they request that the U.S. blockade against Cuba be lifted and that Cuba be taken out of the list of terrorist-sponsored countries. We strongly support, we reiterate our strong support to the Bolivarian revolution led by President Nicolás Maduro, set on defending the country against foreign threats. Venezuela will continue to overcome. Cuba reiterates its absolute support to the Nicaraguan commander, President Daniel Ortega, and to the Sandinist people. Stop destabilizing actions against the government of national reconciliation and unity. We give our full support to the plurinational state of Bolivia in defending its sovereignty against U.S. interference. The Caribbean countries will always be able to count on Cuba as a sister nation, accompanying them regardless of any risk of any extra economic sanctions. We champion their right to have a special treatment facing challenges that have to do with the unjust financial international system and climate change. And we support them in their claims for historic reparation because of slavery in colonial times. And I say this from personal experience, having toured recently certain countries in Africa and the Gorée Island. We want to stand firm and close against those who want to impose their agenda on us. Freedom is not to be begged, it has to be conquered, Maceo said, one of Cuba's patriots. At times when the U.S. is waging a fierce campaign against the Cuban medical cooperation to over 50 countries, what a shameful tactic based on slander, politically motivated slander, aimed at hurting Cuba and cooperation relations with many countries, not considering the damage caused to the health of low-income families in those countries. So I ask the U.S. government, is the United States willing to provide doctors to replace the Cuban doctors under the same conditions while you are sabotaging that health system and you do not take care of the health of low-income families in the United States? And while they're dismantling the Obamacare, which takes care of many low-income families, we could say that perhaps more than soldiers, the United States will be sending doctors. Anyway, we are ratifying our willingness to cooperate with any country that may demand such cooperation based on legal agreements, based on international law, which have been transparent and defended in the Caribbean against threats made to ambassadors by the very same State Secretary, the one who suspended financial aid for USAID regarding health policies, but they maintain funds to carry out unstabilizing policies in the region. Cuba opposes that with cooperation, solidarity, and dialogue. Fidel Castro said, unity means sharing objectives, ideas, concepts, and strategies reach after debate and analysis. We should avoid that among tactical confusion, we may not have clarity of mind. So we are forced to work against the attacks of imperialism, to overcome such attacks in order to preserve peace in the region. Allow me to restate here our absolute conviction that if this Bolivarian alliance continues to make progress, they will not prevent us from realizing our dreams, the dreams of many generations. We need to be confident on the optimism of our founding fathers. Chavez and Fidel show us the way, and we need to preserve that and continue with their legacy. Thank you very much.